You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free. Through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander.
Welcome back, everybody, to an impromptu kind of live recording of the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, your premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers. And I am your host, Julie Jester Gayhart. Believe it or not, this is the 5-year anniversary month of the Jester Section Hiker Podcast. Originally, I was going to take the month of December off and not record any episodes of the show. But over the last week or so, I have really been thinking back of the evolution of the podcast, going all the way back to 2019 when the show originally started. It thus became the title of this episode, What 5 Years of Podcasting Has Taught Me. And the evolution of the Jester Section Hiker Podcast over the past 5 years, the opportunities the podcast has brought me, and most of all, the people that I have met over the last 5 years, all of the section hikers, all of the through hikers, the day hikers, all the people out there across the United States and beyond out section hiking long distance trails. So I just couldn't go without rounding out 2024 without bringing you a 5-year anniversary episode and kind of going through each year and what each year brought to the podcast. Again, this was kind of the impromptu live episode, and at the end of the day, I decided, why not go live? Why not share what I've learned over the past 5 years, what podcasting has taught me, all of the opportunities, and all of the people I have met. So if you are here with me on the YouTube Live, I truly appreciate you joining me. If you are listening to the audio version of the show, you are going to get a special treat. I am bringing back some original intro content with the Hiking Radio Network and the Dokee Brothers intro. So I am putting that on the audio version of the show. But I thought I would kick off the episode with really giving you guys some statistics over the past 5 years. And that starts with this current episode. This is actually episode number 241. So over the past 5 years, I have put out there, and it's hard to believe, 241 podcast episodes. And I was looking at my stats on our hosting site this morning. It is truly hard to keep track of all of the total downloads, but right now, as of this morning, we are looking at a total for 5 years, 241 episodes, 237,000 downloads. And I added up how many actual guests have been on the show, and I have hosted over 120 section hikers on the podcast, and that does not include all of the individuals that have been on the show more than once. So I think Austin Wallis, my business partner, he holds the record of being on the podcast well over, I think it's over 30 times. I would have to add it up, but he has been on the show more than anybody. So yeah, it has been a wild ride. I never would have thought 5 years ago that all of this that I've learned and that I've been able to do would last actually 5 years. So I wanted to give you some more stats, came up with a few things. And one of the things I came up with is my most popular episode over the last 5 years. You all can probably guess. I have mentioned this gentleman before. My most popular episode still to this date, episode number 1 with Purple Pilgrim, also real name Kevin Cyrus. He has more downloads than any other download on the podcast. And there has not been, this is really hard to believe, there has not been a day that episode number 1 with Purple Pilgrim has not been downloaded. So every single day for 5 years, episode number 1 has been downloaded. So thank you all very much. And the next thing I came up with is the episode that had the most downloads on the very first day of release. And that was my episode with Mary Davison, episode number 56. I think on that Saturday that I released her episode, I had over 1,000 downloads of her episode on that particular Saturday that her show released. And y'all can see the picture there if you are watching here on YouTube. I mean, Mary Davison is a Triple Crown section hiker at the age of 76. And since that episode, Mary has walked across the country, and she is getting ready to release, I believe, her 3rd book, if she has not done so already. So if you have not listened to episode number 56 with Mary Davison, I do recommend highly going back and listening to that show. It was quite the hoot. She and I had a really good time recording that episode. Another category I came up with, since I started doing the show live on YouTube, I also have, I guess on YouTube you would call it views. And this particular individual so far on the Jester Section Hiker live version of the show has the most views out there still to this day was my interview with Andrea Lankford. She is an author, a former park ranger, and I interviewed her about her book, The Trail of the Lost, which featured, you all know, Chris Sherpa Fowler, a very close family friend of mine that went missing on the Pacific Crest Trail, and he is still actually missing on the trail. So it was a pure privilege to have author Andrea Lankford on the show. That was episode number 162. So as I went down through and went back over the years from 2019 to the first episode release until today with episode number 241, I actually came up with another category, and I called this one the guest that I never thought I would get on the show. And y'all, that is Dan Durston. So in early February of 2022, Austin was co-hosting the show with me, and we reached out to Dan Durston right at the beginning of the Durston wave of explosion, right before all of Dan's products took off, and we had him on the show. It was an amazing interview. And that was really the first time as well that Austin and I reached out to somebody that, I mean, quite honestly, we thought would be impossible to get on my small little show, and reached out to Dan, and right away, he was very nice. He got back to me, and he was like, sure. So that was a great interview. And also, that was the first time that Austin and I ventured into truly collaborating together. So that episode came out on Jester Section Hiker, and then we released the video version over on Austin's channel, Side Trail Adventures. So as you can see, the evolution, if you will, of the Jester Section Hiker podcast has been a lot of fun. And the last category I came up with is the most unique guest that I've had on the show. And this morning, it really came to me. You all, it's so hard to go back because every single interview that I've had on the show means so much to me and has taught me an incredible amount over the years. But it came down to my most unique guest that I can think of was Dani Beau. And Dani Beau was episode number 92 in the fall of, believe it or not, 2021. Dani Beau has been on Naked and Afraid multiple times, and she was just on their recent series that they had. I'm not sure if she actually won this most recent series, but beyond her being on the Naked and Afraid episodes, Dani brought to the table, she's a search and rescue expert. So in that episode, I interviewed her about search and rescue, what hikers need to be on the lookout for when it came to carrying the 10 essentials. And of course, we also talked about Naked and Afraid. So I have to say that was the most unique guest that I've had in these past 5 years on the podcast. So I just thought that would be a little fun this morning to kick off the episode with some stats, give you guys a breakdown of the most popular, most downloads, the most views on the most episode viewed on YouTube, and the guest, Dan Durston, that we never thought I could get on the show. So let's go ahead and start into really what has the podcast taught me. So this morning when I got up, I kind of sat down and came up with really 4 things over the years that this podcast has taught me that I never thought I would get into. And if I'm being honest, in 2019, when the show started on the Hiking Radio Network, I never in a million years thought that I would still be doing this. I thought maybe I would just do a year or two. And that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of the show, how it has evolved over the past 5 years. So really what the podcast has taught me, and this really surprised me when I thought of this morning, it's the first thing that came to me. The show has really taught me how to be a better writer. And what I mean by that is not only when you're doing a podcast are you interviewing, learning about equipment, but you're also learning how to write show titles, how to write descriptions, how to write emails, and reach out to potential guests that you want on the show, how to write interview questions, which, by the way, I do none of that now. But in the beginning, back in 2019, I was writing every single interview question. So the number one thing that the show has helped me out with overall, not only for the show, but in my life, is actually with writing. And the second thing that comes to mind is actual storytelling. So every time you interview a guest, not only do you want to tell a good story as a host, but you also want your guest to open up and tell their story. In the case of Jester Section Hiker podcast, what that means is someone telling why they've chosen to be a section hiker, someone telling why they love a particular trail, and the time frame that it has taken them to either still be working on their section hike of their long distance trail, or what it took to finish their section hike of a long distance trail. And it's not easy to pull a story out of somebody because most certainly everyone's not comfortable being in front of a camera, being recorded, specifically being on audio. So really getting into the creative storytelling aspect to put a good episode out for you all, the audience. I really learned how to dial in on that over the years. And I think it's benefited for me. And we're going to get into more of that here shortly. And real quick, never thought I would get into this either. So the podcast has taught me how to be a better writer, how to be a better storyteller, and how to edit audio. I never, ever, ever thought I would be editing audio because when I first started the show, Mighty Blue or Steve Adams used to do all the audio editing for my show for the first couple years. And then I really started to, for lack of better words, geek out about audio equipment, mics, how to sound better, how to perfect the audio for the audience. And really and truthfully, now that has really turned into some of my favorite parts. So the third thing that podcasting has taught me is how to edit audio. And then the fourth thing that I'm still learning, that I'm still trying to perfect is creating artwork. One of the things that I do for each episode is either take a guest picture, take a concept, maybe something that comes out of the episode, and turn that into individual artwork for the episode. And what I use to do that is Photoshop and Canva. And if I really wanted to add to it more, I've learned how to use Photoshop over the last 5 years, and I've learned how to use Canva. So something that I never, ever thought I would get into, podcasting has taught me skills that now I can project and utilize for other things. So again, just wanted to kick off with some stats over the years and then get into what podcasting has taught me, those four major things. And now I really want to get into kind of the evolution of the show, because if you go back to the very beginning of the Jester Section Hiker podcast, it really starts off with Mighty Blue, who owns the Hiking Radio Network. And there are 6 to 7 shows now over on the Hiking Radio Network. And Mighty Blue reaching out to me and saying, hey, I'm really interested in starting a show specifically about section hikers. And when he asked me to do that, I mean, I was flattered. I said yes right away, and then kind of was like, uh-oh, I have no clue what I'm doing. So, and Mighty Blue really walked me through that process of how to start, how to come up with, a theme. One of the very first things he asked me was, hey, Jester, do you know any artists, any bands? We need some podcast theme music. And y'all, if you remember back to the original days, for the first 3 years or so of the show, I used a song by the Dokee brothers, and the title of that song was Through the Woods. And again, if you are listening to the audio version of the show, you will hear that intro again. I am bringing it back for this episode. And the coolest thing about being able to use that song on this podcast is the Dokee brothers. They are Grammy Award-winning artists, multiple Grammy Award-winning artists. And I reached out to them through a friend of mine that's actually been on the podcast, Janet Steiner. She knew the Dokee brothers. She actually met them while they were out section hiking on the Appalachian Trail. She met them when they were actually writing the song Through the Woods. And I just reached out to her and said, hey, those guys you were telling me about that were out writing songs, do you know how to get a hold of them? She gave me their email. I reached out to them. And y'all, within 2 or 3 days, I had rights to use not only Through the Woods, but multiple songs off of that album. So, I mean, to start a podcast and have a Grammy Award-winning song as the theme song, I mean, I could just pinch myself. So, and I still have licensing rights to use that music. And who knows, maybe in future episodes in the next 5 years of the Jester Section Hiker podcast, Jester Section Hiker 2.0, maybe I will bring back that theme music. So that is really what started, the kickoff of starting the podcast in 2019, Mighty Blue asking me, then getting the theme music, really trying to get some type of introduction for the show. I'm not going to read all of the introductions right now, but really kind of had to go back myself. And so as of right now, over the past 5 years, I have had 3 major introductions. And the one I am using now is, of course, the premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers. You all will have to go back and listen to the other 2 introductions. They're long. And I'm like, what in the world was I doing with those introductions? But hey, you got to start somewhere, right? So 2019 was really the beginning of the show. I put out 2 episodes in December of 2019. One, of course, I'm just going to throw up Purple Pilgrim again because, come on, who does not love that outfit that he has on? And y'all, Kevin Cyrus, I grew up with Kevin. I know him personally. He and I went to church together. And y'all, he was my hero. When I found out he was out hiking the Appalachian Trail, it took him 2 years, 2 separate hikes to hike the trail. He was just my hero. He was somebody that I looked up to. And wow, he's the first real through hiker that I knew. So there was no doubt in my mind who I was going to have on that first episode. So Kevin, I love you. And who knows, maybe one day I will get Kevin back on the podcast. So that's really how we kicked off the show, with the music, with the theme. And and I was so scripted. I went back, and now I cringe when I go back to those early episodes. I wrote and read everything. That seems so crazy to me now that I actually did that. I was very scripted. I wrote all the questions. I would actually call all the guests in advance and have like an hour-long conversation with each and every one of my guests before we came on the show. Yeah, I don't do that now. Everything is off the cuff, and here we go. Again, 2019, we launched the show, and everybody knows what happened in 2020. 2020 got real crazy with the podcast. COVID arrived in March of 2020, and in that month, and in February and in January of 2020, I pre-recorded several episodes about people going out on their section hikes in the spring, what they were going to be doing in the summer. And there were several episodes I could not use in those early months of 2020 because as soon as COVID hit, they became invalid. Then I was like, what the heck am I going to do? I've got all of these interviews, handful of interviews that I can't use. But y'all, I called every single person back and we re-recorded those interviews, and I did put them out on the show. So COVID was almost going to be a turning point for the podcast, where I was like, well, I have no clue what's going to happen. I don't know if this show is going to continue. What really ended up happening, I guess I ended up being one of those rebels that went out hiking in the summer of 2020 on the Appalachian Trail when I wasn't supposed to. And y'all, for the first time, had no clue, again, what I was doing. Seems to be the theme of the podcast. I recorded hiking from the Appalachian Trail that summer of 2020, and I believe I did close to 400 miles of section hiking that summer, working toward my second section hike. Several of you that listened to the show came out and met me. We had a great time that summer, and every business that we went to, even though it was COVID, they were very thankful and grateful that we were out, that we were willing to spend money in their businesses, and ended up having a great summer, even though none of us really still understood what COVID was about. You know, it was like, do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? And I guess we were more of those non-mask wearing rebels. out on the trail, going into stores and shopping and spending money in the summer of 2020. So that's really what the podcast formed into that summer. And later that year in 2020, I guess I was looking for another project to do, going out on the trail. I loved going out. I loved recording from the trail. And that is when I actually started. I found this book somewhere, 40 Great Day Hikes on the Mountains of Sea Trail. And in the fall of 2020, I just decided I was going to go and hike all 40 of those day hikes across the state of North Carolina. And as you guys can see here on the screen, I have actually put that series of episodes as well as the Appalachian Trail episodes. I started calling them audio vlogs. They're on my YouTube channel, and you can actually listen to all of those episodes in order. So they're broken up into different playlists over on my YouTube channel, and you can listen to them in order if you want to. I don't even know at this point where I found the 40 Great Day Hikes. I guess we all needed something to do in 2020 and into 2021, and they were encouraging all of us to go outside. So guess I decided to go outside, and that turned into really an amazing relationship with the Mountains to Sea Trail, which led to me eventually being on the board and serving a 1-year term on the Mountains to Sea Trail. So that whole entire project, they also have all of those episodes up on their website still to this day. So that entire project really is what boosted and gave the entire podcast a boost. My downloads almost doubled while I was doing that project and then finalizing that. So off into the fall of 2020 and into 2021, that project kind of took over the podcast. And then I decided somewhere in 2021 that I was going to have co-host of the show. So in 2021, I finished the 40-day hikes and then wanted to do something different, have a little bit different flair to the show, and added co-host. So my first co-host, look at that artwork, y'all. It's terrible. Anyway, I've learned a lot more about artwork. So in 2021, the 40-day hikes launched the podcast, then getting into having co-host. My first co-host was Austin Wallis, who now that led to he and I are in business together. My second co-host was Carissa Hip. And then my third co-host, we did multiple episodes together that year, was Jacqueline Holzman, also known, you all know her as RVA Hiker Girl. And wow, we had a great time co-hosting shows together, coming up with various topics, various ideas. And it looks like, that's episode number 122, where we actually all three got together, shot an episode, and talked about what it was like to co-host episodes together. And, that just boomed the podcast as well. The episodes with RBA Hiker Girl, they're in the top 10 episodes of the show altogether. So it's amazing what episodes are still being downloaded a lot. So let me pause here real quick. I see several of you in the chat. Let me go down through here and we'll see who's left. John Hinman, great to see you. Frank, how's it going? Got my sister on here. Thanks for showing up, Terry. Truly appreciate it. Belinda is in the house. Yeah, Belinda says, I love that song. And I'm assuming you are talking about the Okee Brothers, Belinda. And y'all, we got Hawk here in the chat. Hawk, happy holidays. Great to see you. And I should also mention that Hawk and I have done 3 episodes now on the podcast, in-person episodes. And you can find those on the show as well. And Hawk, we need to reconvene again in 2025. So We have Stella here in the chat. So thanks, Stella, for being here. Thanks for posting anything that you post in the chat and keeping things going as we proceed forward. So I think we are moving on from 2020, 2021, and really what rounded out 2021 for the podcast was me and Mighty Blue going out to the John Muir Trail and attempting the John Muir Trail, which I've got on the screen here, the playlist that is over on YouTube as well. I did record audio from our 3-day attempt of the John Muir Trail. I did a whole prep series. I think I have 4 or 5 episodes that I put together in a playlist, again, over on my YouTube channel. You can listen to all of those back to back to back. And the year kind of rounded out with those audio episodes, because if you've listened anytime this year to the show, you will know that 2021 was when I had my first foot surgery, and that kind of rounded out 2021. And everything I had going on there. So picking back up, I should say 2021, I really contemplated not moving forward with the podcast. Just everything that was going on with my foot, everything that I was trying to work through in that situation. I just really was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to move forward. But as you all can tell, I continued to move forward on to 2022. Again, 2022 was another year that really catapulted the podcast to more downloads, more projects that came out of meeting different people on the podcast, and a series that I did of 16 episodes, and I titled that series Jester's Class of 2022 Section Hikers. And I do have a playlist over on my YouTube channel as well, the Julie Gayhart YouTube channel, of those 16 episodes of individuals that were going out in 2022 and planning long section hikes on their favorite trails. We had people from the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, people that were going out on the Continental Divide Trail, going out on the Allegheny Trail, multiple trails, 16 episodes, and 16 amazing individuals. And y'all, when I was going through and looking back over the show, I had totally forgotten that I did that. And those 16 individuals, if you all are still out there, I truly appreciate you interviewing and putting yourselves out there and sharing your hikes that you were going to complete in that particular year. And a lot of people completed their hikes that year. So 2022 was a huge year in that regard for the podcast. Rolling through 2022, Austin and I got together and we started working on our Am The MST first ever filming, editing, producing, and doing everything on our own, our Am The MST series. And we specifically started working on this. It was 4 episodes for the 45th anniversary of the Mountains to Sea Trail in that September of 2022. And this was a long project. It really tested Austin and I to see if we could work together, to see if we liked working together. And I am really proud of what we put together. It initially started off as 4 episodes. And we also put out right here on the podcast 5 episodes, behind the scenes episodes of our ideas, our production, how we put everything together the same month. So not only did we release the 4 episodes of the documentary, but we also released 5 audio episodes that month right here on the podcast of how we put everything together and what we did to kind of make that happen. And we are still getting downloads today on that series. That series is also on the main page of the Mountains to Sea Trail website. So that is still out there available for you all to view as well. And I guess Austin and I decided that year that we wanted to get into filmmaking and producing. So not only did we start the production and finish the Am The MST series, we also started our company, Jester Wallis Productions. And we are an official LLC. That started, believe it or not, it's hard to believe. I'm even thinking back myself. That fall of 2022, we spent many days working together on a name for our company, artwork. And if y'all remember, this is a whole nother story. We actually had a different name and different artwork. We kind of went through, how am I going to say this? We went through some troubling times in the beginning of 2023 and ended up having to change the name of our company. And y'all, it all worked out for the best because I love the name Jester Wallis Productions. So that also started and began developing at the end of 2022. And that led us into starting our second film, which was Safe and Found. And that also led to another podcast being formed. And I want to mention this here is the Hammock Hangers podcast. So I have had Paul Collins on the show before, trail name Skunk Ape. So I want to take a pause here and let you all know that in the beginning, for the first couple years that Mighty Blue was editing, strictly editing the podcast, and then the editing process actually went over to Paul Collins. And because of his editing of Jester Section Hiker podcast, he actually launched and started his own show on the Hiking Radio Network. And then when Paul started his own show, that is really where I went into learning how to edit, learning how to produce my own show. And it made sense that, yes, since I'm recording, since I'm doing everything else, I'm writing the show notes, I know where I mess up in the show, that I would start editing my own podcast. So that kind of really rounds out 2022 and really launches us into the beginning of 2023, where I'm learning how to edit the show. And then I'm learning how to, really produce and upload the show all on my own from beginning to end. And then in 2023, I guess that wasn't enough. I decided to take on learning how to go live on YouTube. And in December of 2022, going into 2023, that is when we launched the live stream show, which you all are watching right now, and learning software, how to do that. And the software that I'm using right now, and this is their YouTube channel, is Ecamm. I just decided, I typed in one day how to go live on YouTube, and I have a MacBook. I like working on Mac products, and Ecamm software came up. It is a very high-end, high-quality software that allows you to go live on YouTube. And for some reason, I decided I wanted to add that to my plate as well. From 2023 through 2024, the majority of the shows that I do in studio have been done live and utilizing Ecamm software. And then that kind of led down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what particular editing software that I wanted to use. And it boiled down to what was going to help me be efficient, what was going to help me produce high-end quality audio. And I chose Descript. So one of the reasons I chose Descript is because it goes very well with the Ecamm product. So it only made sense that I would utilize those together. So maybe one day, who knows, in the future, I will get more into the editing process and give you guys more of a behind-the-scenes look at how you do produce a live episode how you produce a live episode, then go into the editing process, whether it's the live video or the live audio process. So, y'all, we are well into 2023 now. And as far as the podcast goes, I think that year in 2023, I produced over 20 live shows. And then Austin and I spent the entire year producing our film, Safe and Found, which is now out. You guys can find that over on our YouTube channel, Jester Wallis Productions. A lot of time, a lot of effort went into producing that film. At the same time, kind of in conjunction with Safe and Found, we also started producing the Allegheny Trail film, which you can also find over on the Jester Wallis Productions YouTube channel. And that really kind of took up the majority of 2023 going into 2024. What a great time we had working on those projects. And then here we are, 2024, rounding out the year and the 5th year of the show. And y'all, from the very beginning of 2024, this podcast has been all about my journey from really 2021 back on the John Muir Trail, having multiple foot surgeries, gaining weight, getting back in shape, and really putting myself out there and being vulnerable about what happened, getting back healthy, getting back to the trail. And I'm still doing that. This morning, I went and did an hour strength workout. And I do want to give you all a little bit of an update on my health journey. I haven't talked about that in a while on the show. But for the year, I am down 27 pounds. So I'm going to give myself a round of applause on that. It has been hard at times. It's been a struggle. Losing weight properly is not easy. And I really started that journey this year in April during my spring break when, in conjunction with my coach at the time, James Appleton, we decided to put together a series of episodes and a challenge. It was 10 days, 50 miles, Jester's Redemption section hike. And y'all, I put together 10 episodes about my journey from losing weight, my faith, getting back out on the trail, and really getting myself in shape this year so I could go out and hike this summer on the Appalachian Trail and work my way back into completing my second Appalachian Trail completion. And we did that. And not only did we put those 10 episodes out on Jester Section Hiker, for some reason in May, I decided it needed to be its own podcast. So right now, if you ever just want to listen to those 10 episodes, I put it out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It is its own thing now. You can go over on YouTube and just listen to day 1 through 10. If you ever need motivation, if you're ever feeling down, those are the 10 episodes to go listen to. And I'm really proud of that. It has not been easy, really, to put myself out there in such a personal way, but I am extremely glad that I did take that on, and no regrets there whatsoever. So Jester's Redemption section hike is out there. And then this summer, I recorded from the trail, did multiple episodes, put weekly episodes out. And this summer, I did well over 350 miles and actually a lot of miles in the Adirondacks. So spent 2 weeks in the Adirondacks, got to meet James, got to meet some of the ladies with the Seek to Do More program. And y'all, that has changed my life and the way I look at things and the way I am moving forward. So again, really proud of those episodes. And I'm still on that trajectory. Like I said, worked out this morning. I was hoping to lose 40 pounds before the end of the year. but oh well. I imagine I will get to up around 30 pounds, and y'all, I will take it because I am 30 pounds lighter and happier. 365 days of focusing on my health, working out, and strength training, has changed my life, and I have no regrets about that. So, that's really been 2024. I did also want to mention that this year I kind of took a turn in what I'm going to call my own podcasting career because I launched an entire podcast and produced it. We had co-hosts and we did actually 13 total episodes of the Allegheny Trail podcast in conjunction with Nicole and Justin from the Allegheny Trail board. We produced, edited, and put out there 13 episodes of the Allegheny Trail podcast. You can find this podcast on my YouTube channel. You can also find it out there on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the things. And this is the first podcast that I'm kind of behind the scenes. I'm producing the live show. I'm editing the audio, completing all of the artwork. I really, really enjoy doing that particular work when it comes to editing and podcasting. And I never thought I would enjoy that style, but I really do. Another thing I wanted to throw out there is I helped Wim Shalkin with Hiker Metals. He started his own podcast called Stories That Inspire Us, and he has that podcast hosted over on Spotify as well. And I produced the videos and the audio versions of that show. There are 2 episodes of that show out right now, and you can check that out. I will leave a link to that in the description below. But I had a good time working with Wim on that particular podcast as well. So you all could tell from 2019 through right now, 2024, rounding out 5 years of the show. Unbelievable. Really, the podcast has evolved from a scripted show all the way to recording out on the trail and live podcasting. I mean, that is really where it's at right now. I wanted to end the episode really letting you all know kind of what I've got going on now with current projects. I guess you could call my brand Julie Gayhart. I have actually signed a contract with the National Recreation and Park Association to help them edit a particular series of episodes of a new podcast that they will have coming out later in the spring of 2025. And I do want to give a public thank you to Carissa Hip for giving them my information and giving me a reference of working with them. So I will be working with the National Recreation and Park Association coming up in 2025. And then for the Jester Section Hiker podcast, I guess I am going to call Jester Section Hiker podcast 2.0. You know, it's 5 years. We've done a lot on the show. And I've got some new ideas. I'm going to be creating, this is all I'll say for now, some educational content for the podcast in 2025. I want to bring something new and fresh to the show as we move forward with what I'm going to call the 2.0 version of the podcast. You all will see here shortly. If you were here for the intro, I have already designed and created some new artwork going forward for the show. And also, I wanted to give you guys information on what Austin and I have going on over at Jester Wallis Productions. He and I, we have our own show over there as well. We have our own live stream show on our YouTube channel. And recently, over the past couple months, he and I have started a new series. We're calling it The Director's Cut. And that series is really a behind-the-scenes look. Y'all could tell I love behind-the-scenes stuff. At how we put our entire film together safe and found. Y'all can see here up on the screen. So we've got the Director's Cut Episode 1. We've also got the Director's Cut Episode 2. And we have also entered Safe and Found to several film festivals for 2025. So we are waiting to hear back from those festivals if we will be accepted and attending and if the film will be shown. Y'all keep your fingers crossed that we are accepted to some festivals in 2025. We have also submitted the Allegheny Trail film for some festivals in 2025. So that is exciting. And if all of that is not enough, I think I need to take a deep breath for what's coming in 2025. Austin and I, starting in January, we also have signed a contract with a new client for some different filming work and project. So lots to come. Jester Section Hiker 2.0, a lot going on with Jester Wallis Productions. One of the things that I want to close out with is a huge thank you for all of your support, all of my guests, all of my co-hosts, all of you, the listeners who listen to the show every time there's an episode coming out, to all of you right now on the live show that watch, talk in the chat, and contribute to the show. That just motivates me and fuels me to keep going. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. And y'all, I wrote this down the other day. The podcast is still the premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers. And what I mean by that is in 5 years, there is still no other podcast featuring, premiering, and talking about section hiking on an ongoing basis and putting episodes out there. So that I am extremely proud about. A lot has happened over these past 5 years. I cannot imagine what is going to happen over the next 5 years. I am going to leave you all with that. I truly hope each and every one of you have a fantastic holiday season. And y'all know how this goes. I am not going to change my ending, but I am going to one more time thank everybody who is in the live chat right now. I see you all. I truly appreciate you. Be safe out there, everybody. And as always, happy section hiking.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander with me, and I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. You're wondering if I go wandering with you, what kind of trouble we'll get ourselves into. Would it be wrong to tag along with a band of vagabonds? You wonder if I'd wander with you. So I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. I'm wondering if you'd come wandering my way, if you ever get lost or if the trail leads you astray. The music of the pack can always bring you back. I wonder, can we wander away? And I'll spread the word troops and get the gang to come.